There was a long period of time where we did not get a new Batman game post Arkham Knight. Thankfully, Batman Arkham Shadow happened very recently, and that game was amazing, but with it being on a console that unfortunately isn't as accessible as others, a lot of people weren't able to play it. However, there was supposed to be a Batman game that came out post Arkham Knight that was cancelled. It was referred to as Project Sabbath, a game that was based around Damian Wayne as Batman with an older, perhaps retired Bruce Wayne at his side post Arkham Knight. Now, this game's existence or lack thereof isn't new information. We've known about Project Sabbath for years. However, new information just resurfaced showing some character models, and because of that, I wanted to discuss Project Sabbath in its entirety here. I want to talk about the pictures, connect the dots on what the potential storylines would have been here, especially with the new information that was resurfaced, and I want to lay it all out. There's a lot of concept art here, and at this point, there's only theories on what everything could have been, but based on the designs of the concept art, we can infer some things that could have been in this potential storyline, and who knows, maybe this game can come back from the dead, so let's talk about it. Before we start, one of my huge goals is maybe towards the end of 2026 is trying to get 200,000 subscribers. Maybe it's possible. I try to upload frequently, stream daily, make shorts daily, all to have fun, man. So if you do watch my videos a little often, I recommend subscribing. But other than that, I really appreciate it. And let's move on. Okay, so Project Sabbath. What is the premise of this game? So for this video, we'll just call the game Batman Arkham Sabbath because it sounds cooler. But this game would have you playing as Damian Wayne, the biological son of Bruce Wayne, as he seemingly takes over the mantle of Gotham's protector since, Bruce is getting old. With that, we got some new artwork on what Damian would have looked like, which is this. Now, the model most likely was never finished, right? So this might have not been his complete look. I kind of hope it's not anyway. I want him to have like a cool hairstyle or something. Anyways, besides that, we also had older concept art on what his suit would have looked like right here. Looking at his suit, it looks to be more of an armored look coupled with the Batman Beyond logo. So this game would have probably served as a Batman Beyond version since it does take a lot of inspiration from that storyline, seemingly. Now, Damian Wayne was referenced once in the Arkham games from a little sentence dropped by Talia in Arkham City.
You didn't need to get yourself arrested to see me, Bruce. After that night we spent in Metropolis, you could have just called.
So what would the premise be? Why does Batman need a successor? Why does it take place in the far distant future? Well, let's try and piece it together. So according to the little information we do have, after the events of Arkham Knight where Batman's identity is revealed and Bruce is now quote-unquote dead, Gotham for the next however many years is falling apart due to increased crime with Batman's absence. There also seems to be an economic recession since Bruce Wayne's fortune, which funded a lot of things in the city, is now seized. Now, how many years would Arkham Sabbath take place after Arkham Knight? I would say 10 years, at most 20. Probably around 20 years to give Damian a chance to become an adult and a believable Batman is what I would say. Looking at more concept art of the game here, we can see art of Gotham, with Wayne Enterprises being in ruins. Another concept art shows a different angle of the city, some graffiti here saying the end is near, and also a bat pod, which we'll get into later. So Gotham seems to be in a state of hell, as usual, and with Batman being older, his son has to take over as a new protector of the city. Now, this whole premise raises some questions for me. So in Arkham Knight, we see that Bruce is still being Batman. He uses Crane's fear toxin. So between Arkham Knight and Arkham Sabbath, what happens for Gotham to get this bad? Because it seems that Bruce is still Batman, right? He's still a superhero in the city. In fact, he may only just be a superhero full time since Wayne Enterprises and its funds are gone. So it looks like Bruce just devotes all his time to being a vigilante. And with that coupled with the Bat family, how did Gotham City get this bad? Maybe the economic recession was just that bad without Wayne, and maybe criminals keep getting let out because of his identity being revealed. Who knows? And now he needs a new successor, which would be his son, Damian. It does make you wonder about other things though, like what about Tim Drake? Would he not be Batman's successor, right? I don't know, maybe he's too old now as well, and maybe something else happens to him in all those years. It's just food for thought. But moving on, let's take a look at Damian's suit. There's a few pieces of concept art with it. one with the black and gray design, which I think looks awesome. His suit seems to be more armor plated in a way. And then there's the art with the red designs with the Batman Beyond logo. Maybe he wears both in the game and this one's an upgrade, kind of like in Arkham Knight where Bruce went from the post Arkham City suit to the Arkham Knight suit. Could be interesting. Some more concept art here shows Damian in action. It looks like the cape would be used for gliding again. I was thinking as a new way of traversal, they could have Damian wear like rocket boots or something to fly around, kind of like a similar way that Terry did in Batman Beyond, but maybe they wanted to keep the gliding aesthetic here. Also, another means of traversal, as we see with the concept art, is with the Bat Bike, the Bat Pod, the motorcycle, whatever you want to call it. So I suppose as a new means of traversal, this might have been the biggest one, perhaps? Probably very similar to the way we rode the Bat Pods in Gotham Knights, which that game presumably took inspiration from this cancel game. So based off what we've seen so far, the game would have similar traversal to Arkham Knight, which is not a bad thing, but perhaps faster and maybe more options, like maybe the Batmobile would also come back, that kind of thing. So that's really cool for Damian, but enough about Damian. A lot of the cancel screenshots in the game, a majority of them are actually the villains that were supposed to appear in the game. They revealed a good amount of villains through these screenshots, and the way they're designed, we can infer on how different they are or what their stories could have been. Like educated guesses, right? So let's talk about these guys now. The first one I actually wanted to discuss is not a villain, it's actually a screenshot of an older Dick Grayson. So Nightwing would have appeared in the game, which is awesome. What his role could have been, all speculation, but I would say it would be a mentor slash brother relationship to Damian. Maybe Grayson would be there to teach Damian on how to be his own hero and not be in the shadow of the Batman. And maybe he would appear as Nightwing in the game to fight side by side with Damian. Could lead to more dual play sections in the game with a character like in Batman Arkham Knight. Nightwing being younger than Bruce can perhaps be of benefit to Damian. It could be a better mentor to him over Batman because of it. This would also solve the potential issue of this universe where the Bat family is underused. It's an issue with all the Arkham games. Perhaps this one could have fixed it with having Dick Grayson in a prominent role in the story. It could be really awesome, but yes, that is what I think Nightwing would have been like in the main story as a guess. It's kind of weird seeing a middle-aged Nightwing, honestly. Don't really see that too often. To keep it in the realm of the Bat family members, this game would have also introduced us to a new Bat family member we haven't seen in the Arkham games, Huntress. This was one of the newer reveals. This was her leaked design here. Obviously, this is not her complete design. The model wasn't complete yet, but with Huntress here, it would be another Bat family member that could help with Damian. Now, Huntress has existed in the Arkhamverse for a while. In Batman Arkham Knight, you can see that the Birds of Prey team was helping keep Gotham under control. The Birds of Prey being a vigilante team consisting of Oracle, Black Canary, and the Huntress. They message each other here. Huntress was also just name dropped all the way back in Arkham City.
So they didn't want to place their safety, their children's safety, in the hands of vigilantes like Batman, Nightwing, and there's at least one more.
The Huntress. The Creeper?
Whoever.
So, the Huntress is established in the Arkhamverse already, and likely would be in a similar age range around Dick Grayson. Maybe she also mentors Damian. That could just be a theme in the game, where the older vigilantes that were trained by Batman are now training the new blood, which is Damian. In her character model, although it's not finished, she does seem older too, which adds to that point. The Huntress is also, I'd say, a little bit more ruthless than most Bat family members. That might affect Damian, since Damian can be seen to be more violent than the typical Bat family member as well. It could create a conflict in the story. Like, maybe Huntress is the devil on Damian's shoulder while Nightwing is the angel on the other to try and tell Damian that, hey, we don't kill, justice, not vengeance, that kind of thing, right? Could be a very interesting storyline, but that's just me speculating. There's no evidence towards it. Now, moving on, the rest of the screenshots are villains that are set to appear in the game. Some are new villains we have not seen, while others are returning villains with updated looks that say a lot. So let's get started. One of the cut villains from the game is the daughter of Black Mask, and this would have been her design. Now, this is pretty cool. If you remember, Black Mask in the Arkham games was one of the biggest losers in Batman's Rogues Gallery. He got bullied every time, basically. In Arkham Origins, he was used as a puppet for Joker to disguise himself as. In Arkham City, he got his ass kicked in the beginning. He did escape Arkham City, which is like the one cool thing he did, but it doesn't matter because in Arkham Knight, he just gets killed by Red Hood. Now, there were theories that Black Mask survived in Arkham Knight, like Red Hood killed an imposter here, and not the actual one, but that's here or there. But with his daughter here seemingly being the new Black Mask, that leads me to believe that Red Hood actually killed the real Black Mask, and she takes on the mantle. Now, I can't see her being a complete and utter failure and dumbass like her father was. She seems to be more prominent than him. I mean, it's just one screenshot, but maybe she becomes one of the bigger mobsters in this new age of Gotham City. She just has a bit of aura in the screenshot of her that Black Mask never had that makes me think that she would have a bigger role. Her role could be many things. Could be the penguin of the game in the sense that Damian goes to her for information, or she could just be a side mission or a failure like her father too. But I like to think that she would have a bigger, more prominent role in the story. Moving on to the next villain now set to appear in the game, Two-Face, and it's labeled as Two-Face as a judge. And he would have been tripped out, as you can see here with the coat around his Two-Face villain outfit. Now this makes me think that Harvey would have a bigger role in this game, considering how his presence here seems stronger and he would have been a judge. Now, he could still have a smaller role because, like in Arkham City, he was also kind of like a judge there, and he ended up just being a small introduction to the game. In Arkham Knight, he was reduced to a side mission, which kind of sucked. So they could do the same thing here, but it does feel like his role would have been bigger. Arkham Shadow made Harvey the main villain of the game and gave him a lot of the spotlight, but since Arkham Shadow came out very recently, at a point where it would have been after this canceled game, it's just hard to use as a reference here. If I had to guess, Two-Face would not be the main villain of the game. There were rumors that the Court of Owls were going to be the main villains of the game, so Two-Face wouldn't be in that group, but I do think that Two-Face could have played a significant role in the story. Court of Owls is about politics, Two-Face is a judge, could fit into that realm. I think Harvey would fit into the story because of so, and with the way he's presented, I would hope that he's not resorted to a side mission. I mean, look at his design, right? So that's what I think Harvey's role could potentially be. Now, here's a character that was going to appear in the game that we never saw and would have been really awesome. Gorilla Grodd. The super smart gorilla villain in the DC universe had concept art for this cut game. Now, Grodd being in this game is really unique, right? The Arkham games are not unfamiliar with giant animal-like villains, but it still would have been trippy to see Gorilla Grodd. Now, the interesting thing about Grodd is that he was referenced in Arkham Knight. In the Iron Heights airship, there's an empty cage you can find labeled Gorilla Grodd. With the airship crashing into Gotham territory, it's implied that Grodd escaped during this crash and is now running rampant in Gotham. This could have been really badass. Gorilla Grodd is a very intelligent villain. Maybe he built a life for himself in Gotham as some crime boss, maybe. It'd be a very interesting twist for the villain since Grodd is usually depicted as a Flash villain and has more outlandish stories there. He might be more grounded in a way in a Batman story. I could see him as a big side mission villain, something along the lines of Killer Croc's mission in Arkham Knight. And what I find really cool about this is that it would follow up on an Easter egg in Arkham Knight. There's a ton of Easter eggs in the games that allude to things, and to see some come to fruition is a really awesome way of world building. Makes things feel natural and even more connected. So it makes me a little sadder that we never got this game, because seeing Grodd would have been cool for the world building. But yes, I would guess that he's running his own little army in Gotham. It could be some kind of crime boss. Hard to say what his objectives would actually be though. Moving on, another villain that would have appeared in the game is a resurrected Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy would appear in the game, as we saw in Arkham Knight. She died. But if you go back to where she died, there's a little plant growing, implying that she will return, and boom, in this game, we have gotten a resurrected Ivy. Now, Ivy, towards the end of Arkham Knight, becomes more of a hero to the city, but she wasn't completely good. She still had some evil tendencies. This resurrected Ivy, I could imagine, would still be malicious and evil. Looking at her costume here, to me, it says that she is still evil. Her design is interesting too, with the plant beaker things around her waist. She might have found different, more unique ways of using her powers in the storyline. It's hard to say what her role in the story would be, but since people wanted to know whether she's alive after Arkham Knight or not, I would assume she would be a part of the main story, right? In some capacity to answer that question. It's what Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League did. They brought Ivy back in the main story to show us, hey, she's still alive. And also, in every single Arkham game that she appears in, she's in the main storyline in some capacity, even in Arkham City, since Catwoman's episodes are a part of the main story, which leads me to believe it would follow that trend here. But yes, what her role is, I don't know. Could be anything. But again, it is cool that they follow up on a little Easter egg in Arkham Knight to continue the world building, similar to Gorilla Grodd. Now, another villain that was supposed to appear in the game that was new to the Arkhamverse is White Rabbit. Now, White Rabbit is a villain that we have never seen in the Arkham games. Typically, she's an Alice in Wonderland type villain that has the ability to duplicate herself. Usually, in the concept art, she was supposed to be really old, which I guess could imply she was actually a part of Batman's Rogues Gallery in the Arkham games. We just never saw her, or she was a part of another Heroes Gallery, maybe. Anyways, yes, she was supposed to appear in the game. It would have been a new villain in the Arkhamverse that we have never seen, which would have been really awesome. But there's not much to say about her since we never hear about her in the games. It's just something cool, and it's nice they would have added new villains into the series with her. I could picture her as a side mission villain though, honestly. Now here's a villain we got some recent images and information on that I would have been very interested in to see in the game. Killer Croc. Some new images recently dropped that yes, Waylon Jones would have appeared in the game. Now, there's things I want to talk about with this model here. First of all, I think it's hilarious that it looks like they used a fat predator to model Killer Croc after. It just made me laugh. But anyway, looking at Killer Croc here, what do you notice about him? He looks a little bit more human-like, right? As the Arkham games progressed chronologically, Croc became more and more monster-like. In Arkham Origins, he still kind of looked human, I guess. In Arkham Asylum, we see him bigger and more animalistic. Arkham City, still similar in that animalistic regard. And in Arkham Knight, this dude's becoming a full-blown mutated crocodile. In Arkham Knight, he got tortured, and he was used more as an experiment by Quorum. It makes you feel bad for Croc. He is a monster, but that's because the world literally turned him into a monster, bullied him into becoming so. The side mission really made you feel that, and Batman was the only one there to show Croc any real respect by not referring to him as a monster. So between Arkham Knight and this cancelled Arkham Sabbath game, it seems that Croc is becoming less monster-like and more human-like, even for a little bit. It would be very interesting as a storyline. It could be a very emotional storyline that could play here. He could still be a villain, but maybe his objectives here would be trying to become a human again. Maybe Bruce has been helping him off screen. There's a lot of storylines here that this could take. I could see this being on the levels of like Mr. Freeze's fantastic In From the Cold side mission Arkham Knight, where that mission had a great mixture of action, emotion, and a great send-off for Freeze and his wife. Same thing could potentially happen for Croc here, in a perfect world anyway. Okay, those are some of the villains that would appear in the game, but just some other extra things to note. This game would have featured the famous Nemesis system, the system used in the Shadow of Mordor games where the choices you have in-game create expansive and dynamically different experiences for players. It's a really cool mechanic that would have made it into a potential Arkham game, which would have been really awesome. And also, we got new photos of Bruce Wayne's model in the game, as you can see here. He seems to have a cane in the game to help him walk, as well as a leg brace, but there's also art of him in his batsuit, so it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition, because if he's injured, can he really be Batman, right? But yes, his model here looks really good to me. As of now, that's basically all the info we have about the cancelled Arkham Sabbath game. With the villains mentioned and the concept art of Gotham and Damian taking the mantle among other things, it's clear it's a Neo-esque Gotham with it being in turmoil and needing a new hero, which would be Damian. All the villains will have updated looks and perhaps more interesting stories like Killer Croc for example, and the game might have featured new gameplay mechanics such as a Nemesis system. What the stories could have been for characters or just a main story in general, we don't know, but this could have been a very interesting game. I don't know personally if this would be my first choice for a game simply because I want to see more of Bruce Wayne's stories in these games. It also would have brought up questions for me like, did Bruce ever join the Justice League in this universe, or are they obsolete here in this timeline, that kind of thing. But I think in general, this would have been a very fun game with a solid team behind it. It certainly would have been a better choice to me than a game like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League that it just didn't fit the theme of the series as a whole. But yes, that is the new information we got about the canceled Arkham Sabbath game. What do you think? Do you think we should have gotten this game? I mean, who knows, maybe it could come back from the dead, but I have a feeling Rocksteady is making a different kind of Arkham game. Could be wrong though, but let me know your thoughts, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, sub, comment, all that, man. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe, and peace.